Hi, my name's Ruby and I'll be talking about the research and planning stage. First off, we watched different thriller films and paid special attention to the opening title sequences. I found thriller films on film websites like Netflix and by borrowing films off of people. Individually, we analysed certain thriller films and presented them on PowerPoint. I, for example, did research on Silence of the Lambs, Shutter Island and Rear Window. I found these videos on YouTube. We also researched typical thriller techniques on websites like Wikipedia and IMDb. We watched previous year's works and the lessons on the Barndine YouTube account and took notes on things that went well and not so well so we can make our opening title sequences to the best possible standard. I was put in a group of 4 where we all specialised in different areas like camera work, editing, acting and research/organisation. My group decided to do a psychological crime thriller inspired by films like Seven, Brick, Silence of the Lambs and Shutter Island.
Hi, my name's Kailum and I'm going to be talking about the filming stage. For filming we used a Canon 550D camera supplied by the college for both our prelim and opening title sequence. For our preliminary exercise we took shots to practice continuity which we could then use these skills in our final opening title sequence. We took a lot of shots using this camera so that we could decide which shots we can or cannot use in the edits of our final piece. We also used sound equipment to record Foley and ambient sounds which we could later use in our edit, such as a light switch and heavy breathing to add more of a suspenseful feel to our opening title sequence. We used a Mantanez Professional PMD 660 to record the Foley sounds. For our soundtrack that we put in our open title sequence we used a website called Incompetech, which is a copyright-free music website, so we had permission to use it. The music we used was called Control Chaos and it had an eerie, dark, mysterious tone which complemented the whole open title sequence very nicely. For our titles we used a website called The Font and ended up deciding 2 fonts we were going to use. One for the title, Trial and Error, called Uncle Typewriter because it had a weird feel to it and added that to the whole feel of the opening title sequence, and another for the other titles like Production Company and Director called LC Smith Typewriter which did the same thing.
Hi, my name is Mahli. I'm going to talk about editing. For editing we use Adobe Premiere Pro. This editing software is good because it is simple but has a lot of good editing tools that you can use. During editing we added fades in and out for titles to add to the continuity of the OTS. When we were editing we experienced some problems with the lighting in the darkroom shots because they were too dark. To resolve this problem we adjusted the grading on the lighting and made them more visible. Another problem we experienced was the overexposure on the shots of her running away, but we decreased white balance to make it clearer.
We used Adobe Premiere to make our titles by first picking a font from DaFont, then installing it onto the Mac we were using. We then decided on an order in which our titles would go and selected points along our piece to drop them in, where they would feel natural and well spaced out. When it came to effects on our titles, we had a few separate ideas, like a quick flash out after each title, to reflect on the theme of photography. However, we eventually decided on crossfades to pace the piece much better. For our logo we took a font that looks disjointed and thrown together, and used a mixture of capitals and lowercase lettering to reflect on the theme of testing and research being pieced together. For our soundtrack, we took a few pieces from Incompetech.com, which provides royalty-free music. We then compared the pieces matched up against what we'd already edited to see how well they fit. Once we found a piece we liked, we placed it into our edit and brought it down to length and fit our shots to it so that it felt much closer to the action.